that, James?
Yes, I will. Amy Hill, Transpo.
Present.
Brent Warren, City of Napanee. Steve Moriarty, Kosciuszko County. Ty Adley, Marshall County. David Armstrong, NDOT Fort Wayne.
Here.
Ryan Klessman, City of Elkhart.
Here.
Josh Corwin, City of Goshen. Chris Dressel, City of South Bend. Ryan Fellows, St. Joseph County.
Present.
Rick Gall, City of Plymouth. Bill Holder, Kosciuszko County.
I'm here.
Chris Jamrose, City of Mishawaka. Natasha Kaufman, Elkhart County. Marsha McSherry, Kosciuszko County. Sky Metters, St. Joe County.
Here.
Jessica Miller, NDOT LaPorte District.
Hi, James. It's Julie Ritzler. I'm in for Jessica today.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
Tim O'Donnell, South Bend International Airport. Jason Peters, Marshall County. Charlie McKenzie, Elkhart County.
Here.
Kyle Silvius, City of South Bend. Derek Spear, City of Mishawaka. Justin Taylor, City of Warsaw. And then we have had two folks join us since we were doing the roll call. I see Natasha Kaufman has joined us. And then I see Tori Irwin has joined us as well from the City of Elkhart, as well as then two more have joined, Kyle Silvius and Derek Spear, as well as Steve Moriarty. So we do have a quorum of members present.
Great, thank you. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review the minutes from last month's meeting. Are there any questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
David Armstrong, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? The minutes are approved. Next up, we have reports of the chair and secretary. James, do you want to touch on the nominating committee for next year?
Yes, I'd love to. So each year we put together in December a nominating committee. It's usually just a few representatives of the Transportation Technical Advisory Committee. The members, what they do is they work with me, and we will work through who will be our chair, first vice chair, second vice chair for the TTAC. This is not an extremely burdensome task, but I do need a few volunteers. I try to make this very easy on you. It is not long hours or days of interviews or anything like that. So usually 2 to 3 volunteers would be great.
If anyone would like to volunteer, I would just encourage you either to speak now or reach out to James separately so he can move forward with that. And then I think, James, you're going to touch on the 2022 meeting schedule.
Yes. In the packet, you should have before you the overall schedule for 2022. Not a whole lot of changes for that schedule. What you'll see is that generally we are sticking to the first Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. So you can see that before you, and we'll talk through as we come into 22 what that looks like for maybe in-person meetings as well. So it's more informational, but just FYI that you have it.
Great, thank you. Any old business?
There are no items of old business. One other item just to touch on is the November administrative modifications are also in your packet. The administrative modifications are changes that this body, as well as our governing board, have allowed staff to make between meetings. They don't require approvals, but they are posted online for the public to see, as well as provided to all of our boards for them to see as well. So that's included. So other than that, no other business. We can go straight into new business.
Great. Sounds good.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So today we just have one amendment to our TIP, and it falls under Transportation Resolution 40-21. This is an NDOT-initiated planning and environmental linkage study of US 30 and 31 corridors, and we are adding in PE. This study, it will examine mobility, safety, economic development, land use, and environmental factors. And it will also inform NDOT of some solutions to concerns identified with these corridors, so we can make better informed decisions about future projects. This is currently being funded with 100% state funds, but federal funds will be added with future amendments. I'm happy to answer any questions about this, but if there are none, I would ask for your endorsement of Transportation Resolution 40-21.
So moved.
Ryan Fellows, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? If not, Resolution 40-21 is endorsed.
Okay, so next up, I wanted to give kind of a high-level overview of the new infrastructure bill that was just passed. I'm going to talk about some of the high-level points, and then I'll pass it over to James to talk about some more specifics and kind of what it means for our region. But as you all know, on November 15th, President Biden signed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act into law, the IIJA. And this is a $1.2 trillion bill that will reauthorize the nation's surface transportation, drinking water, and wastewater legislation, and then also provide $550 billion in new funding. So it's essentially, there's kind of two pots of funds. You have the part that is being reauthorized from the FAST Act, and then you have this $550 billion in new funding. And when we're talking about these numbers, we're talking about a 5-year span, so fiscal year 22 to 26. And this first figure here kind of shows a breakdown of that $550 billion by sector. So you'll note that about half of this funding will be going to transportation infrastructure. And then this next chart I have here shows of that $284 billion going to transportation infrastructure, kind of how that's being broken down. And one thing I kind of noted when I was going through some different analyses of this bill is this new kind of emphasis on environmental sustainability. So you'll see here there's a new $8 billion for electric vehicle charging, and then another $8 billion for electric buses. And this bill, it also makes some big changes to how funds are apportioned or divided between programs by adding 2 new programs to the core apportioned programs list, which appeared in the FAST Act. So the first is this carbon reduction program. It creates a new formula program to help reduce transportation emissions. And then you have this PROTECT program, which stands for Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost-Saving Transportation Programs, which is a mouthful. But this will be distributed by both formula funding and through competitive grants. And then if we look at just kind of a list of other apportioned programs, this shows a % increase in funding from the FAST Act to the Surface Transportation Reauthorization Act. And one thing I think that's important to note to highlight is the 71% increase in funding for the Transportation alternatives program. And with this transportation alternatives program is now equivalent to 10% of the surface transportation block grant program, which I think is definitely noteworthy. And then finally, I just wanted to highlight some new transportation-focused grant programs that are made available with this bill. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory in terms of what they will fund. And I'm also happy to provide some resources that I have found helpful or different analyses. But one program I wanted to highlight was this railroad crossing elimination program. So this will provide funding to eliminate highway and rail grade crossings that are frequently blocked by trains. We'll work to reduce the impacts that freight movement have on underserved communities, and will also just help improve the mobility of people and goods, which I think pairs really well with our regional freight plan that we're currently working on. And then we also have this corridor identification and development program, which helps facilitate the development of intercity passenger rail corridors. So again, I'm happy to provide some additional information on these programs, but just wanted to kind of outline some of them at a high level. And then next, I'll let James kind of speak on this, but we have here some projections from NDOT on funding over the next 5 years within our region, but I'll let James touch on this more.
Thanks, Allie, for the kind of high-level analysis. One of those other competitive programs that I did want to point out as well is that there is a new rural surface transportation grant program. And under that program, a rural area will be defined as an area outside of an urbanized area with a population of over 200,000. So any area outside of urban areas with 200,000 people would be eligible. Communities and counties could apply. This is going to be a national competitive program. So you're applying directly to US DOT for that program. And it will focus on highway and bridge projects that increase connectivity, improve safety, and facilitate the movement of goods and people. It is slated to be an 80-20 funding program. And no more than 10% of funds can be used on projects less than 25 million. So they're looking for very large rural projects. So there could be some opportunities there for some various projects of sizable nature that we could look at applying for. One of those other things to think through on that previous slide also is that there are a number of new national competitive grant programs that will roll out. About $100 billion worth of programs that will be national competitive programs. So as you're thinking through these new programs, these are going to require national applications. And we would love to assist you as you look at developing applications to these programs. We look forward to being able to help explain what these programs are, to make sure that you're aware of them. We only have a high level understanding of what the programs are right now because there's still rulemaking and all that stuff to take place. But I think it's really important to know that there is a significant amount of new money that is not coming through formula that will require national applications. So on the local level, though, if we go to the next section, just to give you an idea of what it means for the normal kind of funding program that MACOG already oversees. So these numbers here are the estimated projections for just new funding. So what you'll see across the next 5 years cumulatively is that we are anticipating, based on these projections, an increase across the 5 years of about $10.4 million in the South Bend urban area and another $6.1 million in the Elkhart-Goshen urbanized area. So that's an increase of about $16 million which in comparison to where we are right now, that's about a year and a half worth of money. So the exciting news there is right now, many of our projects that we're programming are in fiscal year 27, 28 is where we're looking at. But with the potential additional funds, we may be able to accelerate some projects or program some new projects in as well. So we will be having those conversations with all of you on your projects, say in 24, 25, and 26. So just an FYI, please be prepared for that. Additionally, what this means for rural areas as well is that on average, as you saw kind of across many of Allie's slides, the programs generally are increasing by about 30%. So we do believe that the rural programs will also see an increase in funds, which means that during future calls, there may be more funds available. So just an FYI, generally, my theme and our theme in this presentation is there's new money and there's an increase in money. So there could be a lot of great opportunities to fund important projects. So I don't know if we had any other slides, Allie, or if this was kind of the last slide here. So happy to try and answer any questions around, I don't know what we're calling this, IIJA, but we'll just call it the infrastructure bill. It doesn't have as catchy as a name as FAST Act or MAP 21. It's the IJA, I guess. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, and again, I'm also happy to provide some resources of some analyses that I've found on this bill. I know it's a lot of overwhelming information, so I have found some user-friendly one if anyone is interested in reading more.
Oh, I did also forget to mention, and I know this was on everybody's question list, so I'll bring it up now. The bill does also address the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, so the MUTCD. There's two things in there of note. First, it will allow communities to determine local roadway design. So the MUTCD will be updated to remove the requirement that local roads must be built to state standards, allowing for counties and local governments to use FHWA-approved roadway design of their choice. So that's an item. It also creates new standards to facilitate the rollout of EV charging stations. EV charging has been something that MACOG's been involved in. And not only will the MUTCD be updated for EV charging stations, but also then there's a lot of different grant programs, as Allie mentioned, for funding related to EV charging. Also, the new infrastructure bill requires USDOT to update the MUTCD. So in the next few years, we should anticipate an update to the MUTCD. So that's something that we'll all need to keep an eye on about what changes may take place. So a lot of the reasons for why is they wanted to make sure that we're including protection of vulnerable road users, testing and integrating automated vehicle technology, and the installation of kind of electronic traffic signage, et cetera. So that's why they felt like that needed to be updated. I don't know overall what that update will look like, as it's too soon to tell, but wanted to make sure that you all were aware of that on the front end. If there aren't any questions, expect to hear more from us on this as information rolls out. And we'll try to keep you informed of the various programming and funding that will become available. One thing to note, if you haven't noticed, this bill covers fiscal year 22, which we're very much already in. So as a state, fiscal year 22 started in July for us and ends in June. So we'll be having conversations with the state of what this means and how we'll handle the new money for 22, as that represents right now, based on these projections, we have across the 2 urban areas, about $2.6 million in additional funds for FY22, which is a great thing. But to accelerate some projects may be challenging to spend that full allotment down in fiscal year 22. So we'll talk through with the state of what that is going to look like. And right now, we don't have any information to share with you on what that means. But in case you were wondering and seeing fiscal year 22, yes, this bill was a little bit retroactive in its funding allotment for fiscal 22. So just an FYI. Other than that, we have nothing else prepared related to the infrastructure bill.
And thanks, James and Allie. We can jump right into staff updates.
Okay, before I touch on this community crossings grant, I wanted to remind everyone that NDOT's rule call for projects is it closes on Friday. So if you are planning to submit an application, be sure to get that in as soon as possible. Right now, I think we have a bridge project in each county, a road reconstruction, and a trail project within our region. But we're happy to help with that in any way, so please let us know. But then I also wanted to remind everyone about the upcoming Community Crossings Matching Grant Program. This opens January 3rd and closes January 28th. And actually today is the final day that communities can submit an asset management plan to be eligible for this grant program. So if you haven't done that, be sure to get that submitted. But yeah, and then when the time comes, if you would like to, walk through potential projects or need assistance with this grant program, please feel free to reach out to myself. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is Donnie Ritzma. I have one update for you all. I wanted to remind everyone that the Okra CDGB Round 2 construction grants are due later this month on the 17th. Currently, we are helping the town of Claypool pursue a construction grant to improve their wastewater treatment facility. So in the future, in 2022, when Round 1 opens up, feel free to reach out to myself or Zach Drips in our office, and we'll be glad to provide technical assistance to help you apply for those funds when it becomes available next year.
Good morning. This is Caitlin Stevens, and I believe last TTAC I was giving you an update that the consultants that we're working with HDR for our regional freight mobility plan were in town with us hosting listening sessions in each of the counties. Those conversations went really well. We had a small but mighty group of about 25 people who participated, and we're also able to kind of identify in additional people to reach out to. So this is moving into December. We're kind of wrapping up kind of our initial stakeholder outreach related to the needs assessment. And moving into the new year, we should have kind of a draft of the regional freight profile, as well as some draft needs that our consultants will be able to come to town to present sometime after the new year. So that's coming up shortly.
Great. The next item that we have is related to our Regional Comprehensive Operational Analysis, which is too long of a name and too technical of a name. We'll be calling this plan Connect. It'll be our regional transit plan. As we previously discussed, this is a plan for our regional transit systems of Transpo and the interurban trolley, how those work, where there are opportunities to improve. Our consultant was recently in town. Our lead consultant on that is Jarrett Walker and Associates, who is a national firm of national regard for transit planning. And they're recently in town to, they spoke at the MACOG Policy Board, as well as Transpo's Board of Directors, as well as did a little bit of one-on-one meetings with many of our communities and counties that those two transit systems serve, just to kind of get an idea of our existing conditions. Right now, they're very much focused on the existing conditions kind of section, and then we'll be moving into kind kind of a key choices discussion with our stakeholders and the public, and that's around the question of what I call frequency versus coverage, which is, do you run more rapid routes in a smaller geographic area, or do you run in a larger geographic area with less frequent routes? And that's a major trade-off, and it's a balancing act that has to take place in any transit system, but it's definitely something that we feel in our transit system. So I think that's going to be a great discussion and kind of a great next step. A lot of this is going to start to roll out in January and February. So we just ask that you please keep an eye out for that, help promote those opportunities, as well as be a part of those discussions, as this is really a unique opportunity to impact the transit system. It does not, an operational analysis like this doesn't happen that frequently. It's maybe once every 10 years. And it really is an opportunity to maybe look at some transformative opportunities for those transit systems. So please be involved and please help promote that. I think that's all that I had for the update on that, unless Amy, did you want to share anything as well?
No, I think you got it covered.
All right, great.
And with that, we can head into privilege of the floor. Any questions or comments from anyone in attendance today?
David Armstrong here. Thanks, Allison, for the information on the community crossings. Yeah, everyone should also be aware your projects from 2021 first call and prior should have been closed by yesterday. If they were not completely closed, you do not have a closed letter, you are not eligible for this call.
Great. And David, just a question, just to make sure, for those that were awarded more recently, what does that close date look like?
Generally, it's 18 months.
Okay. All right.
We're a little over. Yeah, I think they go about 2 years for the.
Okay, great.
For the call. This will be the 2020-1, so the 2020-1s need to be closed about a month prior to the call.
Yep. So the 2020 awards would have
2021, the first call.
Okay.
Not the second call.
Great. Okay.
But the second call will be important for the next call for community crossing.
Great.
Also, everybody should remember community crossings are state funds. They should not be reported on your federal outlays report. And that's all I have.
Thanks, David.
Any other questions or comments? If not, do we have any comments from the public?
We did not receive any comments in advance, and there are no comments on the YouTube public comments. So I don't believe we have any public comment today.
All right. Well, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Or we can just stay here all day.
Ryan Fellows, motion to adjourn.
Kyle Sylvius, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the week.
Hey, have a great rest of the week, and all of you have a happy holidays and a great new year. We'll see y'all in January.
Take care.
Thanks.